Seka, I'm Big Sag.
Bro, why you Sag? What can I do to help?
My damage sucks. I can't do any big paper damage. I watched Tenha, and he said I could subscribe for Big Peepee, but I didn't.
That's mean, bro. I love Tenha.
I love him too, but I need to know how to do better damage, because I'm such a papega.
Well, why don't you just put more better artifacts in your characters and get better talents and stuff?
But I don't know how to do it. I don't know what order, and I just feel like I'm freaking out, man. I don't know what to do.
Oh, it's okay, buddy. I'll make you a guide. It'll be a step-by-step guide. 5 steps to improving damage. Yo, what's going on, guys? Sekapoko here, bringing you another Genshin Impact video. For this video, we're going over how you can improve your damage in just 5 simple steps. Let's go and jump into it. So the first step is you have to identify the type of team that you're going to be using. Now, the first type of thing, by identifying the type of team, there are 4 different types of team composition you'll be using. The first is a physical main DPS. The second is going to be an elemental main DPS. The third is an all support team. And the fourth is a Geo DPS. So we're going to be going into all 4, and then we're going to go in, breaking it down so you can understand exactly how you can improve your main DPS, give yourself more damage by just following these steps. It's really easy. Step 2, after you have identified what your type of main DPS is, you're going to be building a team around that main DPS. Typically, physical main DPS rely heavily on an ability called Superconduct. Superconduct is the ability to use a cryo and electro reaction in order to lower the physical resistance of enemies so that your physical attacks can deal more damage. Physical characters are typically best suited right here for electro or cryo characters to prevent yourself from getting too much swapping. Okay, you don't want to swap too often on a physical carry because you want to be able to switch back to your main DPS very quickly and have that character apply even more reactions. Now, physical carries are really good for a lot of different characters, and there are exceptions to this rule. Of course, you can use pyro characters like Jin Yang or Zhangling. These are great characters to use with resonance and are kind of exceptions to the rule. Jin Yang, of course, is really good with a skyward sword, which is a very powerful weapon for her in order to make her a good physical carry. And Zhangling is a very good physical carry as well with the Crescent Pike. Very good weapons on these characters. Super good characters overall for phys carries. Jean is a great option for free-to-play players as well. As well, of course, Zhongli may be a really good option going toward 1.3. So these are kind of exceptions to the rule, but typically most of the carries are going to be Electro or Cryo to prevent a lot of swapping. Now, the best physical carries, of course, are going to be Keqing, Razor, Fischl, Kaya, Zhangling, and Jean. Not in any particular order. Zhongli may make that list, and Jin Yang make that list, depending on like your level of whale, free to play, and when the game, what version of the game you're watching this video at. You can use other characters to be physical DPS. By the way, for main DPS, it's just typically it's a lot less optimal because it's just. You're using characters that have lower normal attack ratios. For example, one of the characters that a lot of people talk about for main DPS and ask questions about would be, say, let's see here. Like Xinchu. Can Xinchu be a main DPS? I do get another question asked from time to time. I usually say no because Xinchu's normal attack ratios are pretty darn low as far as a normal attack character. It starts at 46, goes to about 70 or so on his main attack. Another character I get asked about is like Animo Traveler, where he or she has like the same issue where they have very low stat ratios on their main DPS attack and they don't get a lot out of it. Whereas a character like Razor has much higher normal attack ratios, finish the attack rotation at a very high value, and of course scales like physical DPS, etc. So there are way better characters for physical main DPS that can do way more damage because they get more stats in different places as the character levels up. You can do this on other characters. Again, it's just less optimal. After you've built for your Superconduct, you want to move toward you want to do one of 2 different options. The first option is building toward an Elemental Resonance. The Elemental Resonances that you can really build toward are going to be, first off, a Pyro Resonance or a Geo Resonance. The second option is going to be, instead of building into a Resonance, you're actually building into Elemental Supports. And these will actually, Elemental Supports will help you break shields and they'll actually help you do more damage. These are really good for characters like Xinchu, Beidou, Zhangling, Bennett, Diona, Ganyu, Mona, Albedo, Kaya, and Chi-Chi. These are all really good elemental supports that can really boost your overall damage and do not cost you anything to put on your team to just help you break through shields so you can do your physical damage on the characters that you need to. The last thing, of course, that physical carries do take a lot of damage because they're out in the front of the field a lot of the time. So you definitely want a healer with these characters. And the 3 best healers I find for these types of teams are going to be Bennett, Chi-Chi, and Diona. Obviously, the exception to the rule will be Jean being her own healer for a main DPS. It's just kind of a weird exception to the rules. You can use that if you wanted to. You can use Jean in the healer here, but I find it to be not the best option. Next up, we're going to be going into Elemental main DPS. Elemental main DPS are typically good for, built around Hydro, Pyro, or Cryo main DPS. Now, these types of teams are going to be based on 3 different strategies. They're going to be either going for a Vaporize or a Melt reaction, which is going to rely on Pyro and Hydro. Or going for a Melt reaction, which is going to be Pyro and Cryo. Now, these teams are a big issue with any type of team that's going to be for a Vaporize or Melt strategy is that you're going to have to time the amount of elemental particles that you have on enemies, so that if you have an enemy out. So what I mean by timing-based characters is, of course, you're going to be going in with a character like, say, Mona, trying to get elemental reactions up on the characters, time the hits in, get your overall damage in different ways, make sure that you have the right synergy up, and then go bop damage in whatever reaction you want to go. So Electric Radar, Superconduct comps, and Overload comps, these compositions are actually based upon face rolling. You just go in as hard as you can against the enemy. Your timing doesn't matter as much, and you can actually have a lot more fun with it. I find these comps to be a lot more fun for a lot of players because you don't actually have to rely on your timing. You don't have to worry about too many things because all you have to do is just spam whatever you want, whenever you want, and do lots of damage. It's really not that complicated to do these types of compositions, and you just do whatever you want when you want. And your order doesn't matter as much. You can run them however you want. It's great. And the last type of comp is a freeze composition because you wanted to just lock an enemy in one spot and not have to worry about it. Now, based on the type of elemental damage and style, you want to bring the appropriate elemental support. So if you're bringing, of course, Melt compositions, Vaporize, Electrocharge, Overload, Superconduct, you want to make sure that you're bringing the appropriate elemental support, and the best supports in the game to bring for these types of things are going to be Zhangling, Fischl, Jinku, Beidou, Bennett, Chungyang, Kaya, Diona, Ganyu, Lisa, Barbara, and Mona. The last thing you want to do on your elemental DPS teams is bring a Viridescent Viriner set. The Viridescent Viriner set, if you did not know, is a set that increases your swirl damage, but also decreases the elemental resistance to the element infused in the swirl. So if you do infuse a swirl with a Viridescent Viriner set, so if I had a Hydro particle on an enemy from Mona, and then I used the Viridescent Viriner set on Sucrose, it would lower the elemental resistance to Hydro for that enemy by 40%, increasing my overall damage. And yes, elemental resistance can be reduced below 0. Now, the best characters for this are going to be Jean, the Animo Traveler, Sucrose, and Venti. Any of these characters is great. It really just depends on who you have in your account and who you want to build out. As far as the last healers go, of course, you want to bring a healer to these teams. Jean, Bennett, and Diona are typically the best because Bennett's going to boost your overall damage, and Diona can potentially increase your elemental mastery if you have her at Constellation 6, which can improve your overall damage very heavily. Jean, of course, will be a character that you can use with Viridescent Viriner, which can actually take out one of the spots you need for your team, which is one of the reasons I really want Viridescent Viriner Jean on one of my teams. The next type of team we can talk about, of course, is going to be an all-support team, which is going to be based really around a reaction-based damage. Now, these types of sets are really good with a character team with a 4-piece Noblesse Oblige. If you didn't know about the Noblesse Oblige set or Noblesse Oblige set or whatever, the 4 set of this is going to improve your overall attack percentage as well as elemental burst damage percentage on the character applied to and boost your overall attack of your team by 20%, giving you a huge damage bump to your team, and do very well with, of course, an Animo character with a Viridescent Viriner set, because these types of teams are built around ultimate spamming and getting large amounts of reactions on enemies. Doesn't matter what the type of reaction is. It's a very big face roll composition that allows you to do QE, maybe some normals and charge attacks in between, and they just do a lot of elemental damage. These teams really rely heavily on energy recharge rate, so you can get your ultimates up consistently, and doesn't really matter how you do the team. You're just consistently spamming with these types of teams. The last thing, of course, you want to do with these teams is bring a healer. And the last team we're going to talk about is going to be a Geo DPS team. Now, Geo DPS teams really are typically around Ningguang or Noelle. You can argue for Geo Traveler and stuff like that, but those are like mixed damage teams. But Ningguang is really the only true Geo damage character team, and you can make an argument for Noelle, but typically you want to bring a Geo resonance to these teams, bring a healer, doesn't matter who it is, and just use a character with 4-piece Noblesse Oblige. It's really the simplest team that you can build in the game. Doesn't matter how you build these kinds of teams, because that's the only 3 things that you need in your team. They're very simple. Okay, step 3. After you now you build out your main DPS and you have your team composition set up, you want to make sure you build the correct artifact sets for your main DPS. Physical characters are going to rely really heavily on the Gladiator and Bloodstain sets. If you want to build out any physical carry for ranged DPS, you probably want to focus on a 2-state Gladiator as well as a 2-piece Bloodstain set to give yourself more damage. If you're going to be in a melee carry, of course, those ones can either be a 2-piece two-piece Gladiator set and a 2-piece Bloodstain set, or go with a 4-piece Gladiator set, depending on how you want to maximize your damage. The only other option for those main DPS is going with a 4-piece Retracing Bolide set. The Retracing Bolide set is basically reliant on giving yourself 40% normal and charge attacks while you have a shield up. Now, this is a little bit more complicated and much better for people that don't really take damage and are really good by just keeping their overall shields up all the time. Typically, a Geo main DPS would work really well here. A character like Jin Yang, that would be a very, very good option for these types of things. Now, elemental carries rely really heavily on elemental damage sets, and then sometimes have a mixture with Noblesse Oblige. Case in point, a character that would work really well with a 4-set Hydra piece would be either Mona or Child to improve your normal attack damage as well as Hydra damage bonus. You can use a 2-piece Noblesse Oblige with these characters if you want to maximize their ultimate damage a little bit better. Some characters would do a little bit better in these types of situations with hybrid sets between the two, but typically you want to go with a 4-set of whatever elemental set they have, and if you want to switch off, that'd be a little bit different. Now, Geo carries rely really heavily on the Archaic Petra set as well as the Noblesse Oblige set or a Gladiator set, really depending on how you wanted to build your overall set, or go with a 4-piece Retracing Bolide set in order to give yourself more damage on your normal and charge attacks. Now, step 4 is going to be very simple. Get better talents and get better artifact substats. This is a long-term goal. Not everybody is able to do this. You want to have at least talent level 6 on everything, but eventually you want to get higher talent levels. For example, a character main DPS like Ningguang, you want to boost her main normal attacks, and typically for your main DPS, you want to build out their normal attacks first because normal attack dealing is what they're out on the field most for. Now, you may get more damage out of other parts of their kit, but the main reason they are a main DPS is because a main DPS is reliant heavily on being out for a long time and using large amounts of normal and charge attacks. That's why you level up their normal and charge attacks first, because that's the primary thing they're doing on the field. Artifact subsets are really going to be really simple for a lot of characters. You want to make sure that you have crit chance and crit damage on the same level of priority depending on what you need. As far as ratios go for crit chance and crit damage, you want to have a minimum of 40% crit chance and a minimum of 100% crit damage on all your characters going forward, and anything above that is gravy. You can talk about 2-to-1 ratios and all that stuff, but typically what you want is a 40% crit chance, 100% crit damage, and everything you can get above that is beneficial to your kit. Not everyone can min-max to every type of thing, so just know that no matter what, if you're above those ratios, you're going to start doing a significant amount more damage. All right, next up, the next artifact substat you're going to go for is attack percentage, and finally, you want to go with elemental mastery and energy recharge. Some characters, of course, like Zhang Li, will get some more damage in the future as well as currently off HP percentage things, and you can potentially say that HP percentage can be good for these characters. So if you wanted to go that, if they do have a specific offshoot stat, that will be the same priority as this third stat, which is elemental mastery or energy recharge. So just know that that's where those stats lie as far as priority order. Now, the fifth thing is going to be picking the correct weapon. Now, for every character in the game, almost every main DPS is going to rely very heavily on crit chance and crit damage, and your main weapon should reflect that. Now, those weapons are prioritized as the primary weapons for main DPS because those are typically what people get on Battle Pass weapons or with the Black Cliff weapons. There are exceptions to this rule, of course. For physical main DPS, you're going to be a little bit different. For a physical main DPS, you may want to go with a weapon that has physical damage on it. The case in point for this weapon would be the Crescent Pike, which I don't actually have on this account, which is kind of weird. And of course, the Snow Tomb Star Silver. Both of these weapons are exceptional for main DPS, so if you wanted to use these weapons, they are very, very good for almost every main DPS in the game. They have physical DPS for a physical carry. It's very good. Now, some weapons out there do have an attack percentage main stat, and that's all you can really get if you do have that. Attack percentage main stats are fine, but the priority that you want to get is weapons that have crit chance and crit damage. Now, some weapons, of course, have normal and charge attack damage, or just normal or charge attack damage as their passive for a main DPS. Now, this is an exceptional set for a lot of people. And one of the things with these weapons is that they're very, very good for characters that use main and charge attack, which is your main DPS. Case in point for this is the Black Sword, is like a weapon that increases normal and charge attacks, or the Crescent Pike, which adds normal attack damage to adds additional damage to your normal attacks and charge attacks. So both of these types of weapons are very, very strong. Or another option, of course, is the Skyward Blade, which just does something very similar as well. But for 4-star weapons, which is what most people are going to be able to get, you definitely want to have a weapon that increases normal and charge attack if you can. But if you can't get that, attack percentage, crit chance percentage, crit damage percentage on the overall stat on the weapon is usually a great way to go. Now, lastly, 5-star weapons. No matter what 5-star weapon you get for your character, they are typically better than 4-star weapons. The exceptions to the rule are usually around the Black Sword as well as the Crescent Pike, and they really vary based on situation, artifact sets, and how you're using the character. All right, guys. Well, my name is Sekapoko. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did enjoy the video, if you guys found it helpful, of course, like and subscribe, all the fun stuff. If you guys have additional information you want to pass on, and of course, give people information based in the game and help them out playing Genshin Impact, of course, we're live every single day at twitch.tv/Sekapoko, so you can join us there at very random times. So make sure you're following so you know exactly when I'm streaming, and going on Discord so you can know exactly when I go live, because I post every time there. Have a great rest of your day, guys.